The sun hung low over the dense jungles of Vietnam, casting long shadows over the battlefield. Private James Carter adjusted the strap of his M16 rifle, his heart pounding like a war drum in his chest. He had been in Vietnam for 6 months, but every day felt like his first, chaotic, uncertain, and terrifying. His unit, the 2nd Battalion, had been tasked with securing a small village suspected of harboring Viet Cong forces. Intelligence reports indicated enemy activity, but details were sparse. The air was thick with humidity, the scent of damp earth and gunpowder blending into something unsettling. "Stay sharp," Sergeant Miller whispered, leading the way through the underbrush. James followed closely, scanning the trees for movement. The jungle was alive with sound, chirping insects, rustling leaves, and the distant murmur of water. But beneath it all was the eerie silence of unseen eyes watching them. A sudden burst of gunfire shattered the stillness. Bullets ripped through the trees, splintering bark and kicking up dirt. "Take cover," Miller shouted as the soldiers scrambled behind fallen logs and thick foliage. James's hands trembled as he raised his rifle, firing blindly into the trees. The ambush was brutal. The enemy had the high ground, hidden in the dense canopy. The battle raged for what felt like hours, but in reality, it was only minutes. One by one, his comrades fell, their bodies lifeless against the jungle floor. The realization hit James like a freight train. War wasn't about honor or glory. It was about survival. A grenade landed just feet away, its pin already pulled. Without thinking, James threw himself backward, shielding his face as the explosion rocked the ground. His ears rang, his vision blurred, and pain seared through his left leg. When he opened his eyes, smoke and fire painted the battlefield. Through the chaos, he saw a wounded soldier, barely conscious, reaching for help. It was Private Wilson, his best friend, the one who had promised they'd both make it home. Ignoring the pain, James crawled toward him, dragging Wilson behind a tree. "Stay with me, man," James urged, pressing a bandage against Wilson's bleeding abdomen. Wilson coughed, blood staining his lips. "Tell my mom." "I tried." "No, you tell her yourself," James insisted, his voice breaking. But deep down, he knew the truth. Minutes felt like hours as the battle raged on. Reinforcements finally arrived, pushing the enemy back. The jungle fell into silence once more, but not before claiming its price in blood. Wilson was gone. So were half the men James had fought beside. As he was evacuated, James stared at the darkening sky, his body numb. He had come to Vietnam believing in the cause, in his duty as a soldier. But now, all he saw was loss. Years later, back home in the USA, James sat on his porch, staring at the American flag swaying in the wind. He had survived the war, but part of him had never left that jungle. The ghosts of the past haunted him, whispering in the night. War wasn't just about battles and victories. It was about the soldiers who carried its weight long after the gunfire had stopped. And for James Carter, the war would never truly end.